Hello chess fans, this is Truxton doing Guru Battle number 4 against all rats. This is a 15-minute game, 3-second increment, so I'm going to go ahead and get started with it. I played d4 and he played g6. This allows me to play pawn to e4, so I'm going to go ahead and do it. I can also play pawn to c4, but I like pawn to e4. You know, both of my bishops are going to have places to go. He might try bishop g7, or that's what he did. He's attacking this pawn outright. So I'd like to bring my knight to e2 and not really f3 because of the pin. But whatever I do, I've got to guard this pawn. I'm going to play bishop e3, and if he plays knight f6, I'm going to play pawn up to f3, and the bishop on f1 is going to go over to c4 or d3, and my knight's going to go to e2. And the reason why I'm going out of the way, to play like the knight on e2 is because in a lot of lines I've seen black plays d6 or d5, and then the bishop comes out to g4 and pins down the knight on f3, and I think that's just annoying. So whatever I'm going to do, it's going to be to avoid that. I'm not sure what the name of this opening is. I'm actually out of book right now because I really haven't studied this line. I've only just played it. Actually, I've never played this move in this move order before. I've seen d4, g6, e4 a lot. Okay, so he went ahead and played c5, so we're getting interesting. I can just reinforce it with pawn to c3, but I think what he wants me to do is he wants me to bring my knight to f3. Or my knight to e2, but I'm not going to do that yet. I can take the pawn, but then this pawn falls. So there's going to be some pressure on this pawn that I'm going to have to figure out. I'm going to play pawn up to c3 and just defend the pawn. Replace a pawn with a pawn. That's the idea. Queen b6. He's attacking the pawn on b2 and pressuring the pawn on d4. After he takes and I retake, he's got two attackers and I've got two defenders. He can put the knight on c6 and increase it, but then I'm wondering if he can take this pawn on b2. That's what I'm wondering. Okay, I can just play pawn up to b3, but I'm not sure if that's the best move in this position. It doesn't develop a piece. I can't develop any of my pieces and defend the pawn on b2. Other than the queen, but I really don't want to exchange the queens yet. It's not what I want to do. I'm wondering where this knight should go. I can play queen d2, but the queen's a little bit overburdened defending b2 and d4. If I play knight d2 and he takes the pawn on b2, it's my move. Then the c3 pawn falls. Okay, well, I don't want to get into time pressure here. That's definitely not something I want to do. But what about pawn takes c5? What's he going to do? He's going to take the pawn on b2. That's what he's going to do. Okay. Gosh, I really just don't want to exchange queens. Can I play queen c1? I guess he wins a pawn in that line. Nope, the bishop is hanging when it's all said and done. Queen c1, pawn takes d4, pawn takes pawn, bishop takes d4, bishop takes bishop, queen takes bishop, and then queen takes c8, checkmate. So he'll throw in a knight c6 if I play queen c1, and then it's my move. I can play d5 in that line. He'd put a knight on e4, but that's playable. All right, queen c1. Because this is playable because I don't really need the defender on this pawn right now because when it's all said and done, this bishop is loose. So he's probably going to play knight c6 here, and that blocks the file. And then it's my move, right? I wonder if I can just defend it with knight e2. Maybe I can fianchetto the bishop. All right, he played d3. That doesn't affect anything that I said. He's just reinforcing this pawn. But still, this bishop is loose if he takes and I take. So it's my move. I can develop this piece now, this bishop. Why does he want me to develop this bishop? I'm not sure why. I'm just going to play this developing move. Bishop d3 develops. I'm going to bring my knight over here to e2. That's what I'm going to do. He still can't do anything with this because this bishop is free. If he plays bishop g4, I might just play f3 and restrict that bishop, and then bring my knight over here to e2, because he still wants to play knight f6 here, and then knight g4 to attack this bishop. If he plays knight f6, I think I'm gonna play. He didn't. He played knight c6, so now he's attacking this pawn, and now the bishop is defended by the rook. Okay, so d5 is interesting. Now he has 1, 2, 3 attackers on the pawn. I've only got 1 defender, so it looks like d5 is forced. Let's just make sure. Knight e2, c takes d, c takes d, 3 attackers, 2 defenders. Not enough. All right, d5. Now I've blunted this bishop here with the pawn on c3, and the knight's got to go over here to e4, and he's attacking my bishop, so I can't play f4. What to do? I could bring my bishop over here to c2. And the reason why I'm saying c2 is that I want my knight to go to e2, right? Can I just defend the bishop? Not so easily. Definitely not so easily. Okay, so this knight can hop to c4 if I put it on c2. I don't want that to happen, so I'm going to play bishop e2. I guess now the knight's going to go to f3. I mean, I can play f4. Can't I play f4? I guess his knight can go over here to g4 if I do that. Actually, yeah. If he plays knight g4 right now, I'm going to take it. And the reason that I'm liking the exchange is that I've got pawns on light-colored squares, and this bishop really isn't so happy. So he knows that. He knows that if he plays knight g4, he knows I'm going to take it. And then he'll take it, and then I'm going to play f3. And he'll play bishop d7, and then I'm going to play knight e2, and that's a game. So he's probably just going to develop and play knight f6. That's probably what he's going to do. And then I'm going to play f3, and he's going to castle, and then what am I going to do? How am I going to develop? Right? By playing f3, I've taken away a square for the knight, the only square for the knight. I guess I could go to h3, but then I get some double pawns. Yeah, that's not that good. Oh, he did this. I'm really kind of surprised by that. I didn't think that he was going to play that way. But okay, we can play this way. That's fine with me. f3, knight e2, and we've got a game. He's going to put the bishop on d7. And bishop d7, knight e2, bishop. If bishop c5, I can play... Okay, so I think what he wants to do is put the bishop on b5, right? Okay, knight e2, bishop b5, and if I castle, I lose a piece. Knight e2, bishop b5, c4. Bishop takes b2, ouch. I can just play pawn up to a4 and restrict that from happening, and then play knight e2, because he's still got to play knight f3 or castle long. I can just play... See, I can't play c4 here. That's not something that I can really play because of the pressure on this square. What if I play knight d2? Okay, the idea is if bishop c5, yeah, okay, knight a3, that's a developing move, and it controls b5. And maybe the knight can go over here to c2, and maybe I can play for pawn up to b4 later with the rook on b1. Alright, I'm going to play knight a3, and the reason is I just want to develop and control b5. He's going to play knight f6, or he's going to castle long. I'm not afraid of either, because I'm going to play knight e2 no matter what he does. Now the knight can go to c4 and harass this queen. I'm not sure if it's worth anything doing it, but it is an option. This queen is still dependent upon the b2 square, so I might want to play rook b8 so my queen can move. Maybe the queen can just go to c2, and then the rook can go to d1. That's probably a better spot than b1, but if I'm going to play b4, it does weaken the c3 square. The reason for b4 is to just open up lines in the position. I think he's going to play knight f6. Pretty sure that's what he's going to play. Unless he plays pawn up to e6, and the reason for that is he wants to bring his knight to e7 instead, because his knight on f6 might not have much scope because of all the pawns in the center. So if he's stubborn and he wants to bring his knight to e7, then he's going to play pawn up to e6 right here. I'm not afraid of that. See, I'd like to be able to play. Oh, what did he do? He played queen a6. So he really wants to get his bishop there, but I'm liable to just take that bishop if it goes over to b5, because my knight on a3 really isn't that good of a piece. And now that his queen is here, there isn't as much pressure on b2 anymore. So now my queen can go to d2. Right? Yeah. All right, so I'm going to play knight e2 here. And if he plays bishop b5, I'll take it. And what I'm going to have to do is probably put the queen on d2 or c2 to protect the knight so I can castle short. I can castle long in this position, but is that the right way to go? Well, playing knight e2, I can also go to a3, but then all right. So knight e2 is flexible. I think it's the right move. I'm just getting my guys out. That's all I'm doing. He might try to embarrass my knight on a3, but my knight can go places. It can go to c2, and then over here to e3 once this bishop moves. Now that his queen is on a6, I can freely play pawn up to c4, because I'm not afraid if bishop takes b2 anymore, because I'll just take it. So if he plays e6, I think I'm going to play c4. And then if he takes, then I'll take back, and my pawn structure is intact. And if he plays queen a6, queen b6 to attack b2, I'll just play rook b8, or rook b1. Then the knight's going to go to c2. And then head over to e3 at a timely notice. Actually, I'm not sure if e3 is the best square, but it's definitely a plan. Okay, so he has a 1 minute time advantage at move 12, so I need to move fast. At this stage in the game, I can't take forever. I've got to make my moves at a fairly reasonable pace. All right, so he's grabbing space with b5. I think that makes sense. Yeah, it definitely makes sense. Maybe he's going to put his rook on c8, so my queen might have to go to here. Actually, I think I'm going to go ahead and play queen d2 right now, because I can't castle because he wins a piece. Because if I castle, he plays b4. So I'm going to play queen d2 and get my queen off the c file and control b4 and protect the knight that's on e2. Multi-purpose move. If b4, I take it. If he takes, then I take on b4 and win a pawn. I guess he could play queen d3, and then I could bring the queen back. Okay. So I'm not afraid of any of that stuff. If c4, I just say thank you for the d4 square, and play knight c2 immediately. If he plays e5, I take en passant. Then he'll take back, and then I play knight d4 or bishop d4. Okay, so the reason why I played queen d2 is to control b4, to protect the knight, and guard b2, and get out of the c file. And also so that my knight can go to c2, because I could have played queen c2. Okay, so he clearly wants to play pawn up to b4. So I'm gonna try to stop that with knight c2, get it to a pretty good square. That's where it wants to go anyway. So I'm just gonna play knight c2 here. Remember, I'm trying to play fairly fast. I don't want to get into time pressure. And I'm pretty sure that we were out of book on move 3, or at least I was anyway. So we've got a game. And he might try to move the queen now and then play a5. And the reason is he wants to get b4 in. I guess I could play a3 and then restrict it, then get the open a file. So this rook might be good on a1. if he goes for that plan. If b4, c takes b4, c takes b4, knight takes b4, I'm attacking the queen, what's he going to do? I've just won a pawn. Yeah, that's pretty good for me. I don't think he can do that. Maybe once these pawns leave, then there's pressure on d4. Let's look at that. b4, well, he's not castled yet. I mean, he's playing rook b8 and grabbing space on the queen side, but I don't think he's quite ready to bust it open yet. He needs to play knight f6 here, or e6, right? Maybe he just, maybe the reason why he played this was because of pawn to c4 after e6. So he's going to play e6 here. Pawn up to e6, and I cannot play c4. That's his idea. All right, pawn up to e6, it's my move. I'm just going to take it, I think. Yeah, I'm just going to take it. And then I've got the semi-open d file and pressure on the d6 pawn. A possible outpost, maybe, on the d5 square, which my knights can hop into, maybe. Okay, so now he's getting himself into time pressure. He needs to be careful. He's got 6 minutes, so he's really thinking about it. He's either going to play e6 or knight f6. It's one or the other. So I really want to castle and, you know, get that king safety in. Black's done a pretty good job of grabbing space on the queen side. Wow, he cracked it open immediately. That's amazing. All right, he's sacrificing a pawn. I guess he wants to play bishop out over here to b5. So I can't play pawn to c4. If I ignore it, if I let him take and I take, he can put a rook on b2. Am I worried about that? All right, looks like I'm getting into complications here. I can just castle, and then if he takes, I take, and he'll play rook b2 and pressure the a2 pawn. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. All right, so looks like he's sacrificing a pawn, but there might be some compensation for him. I'm going to take it, and when he takes, it's my move. He doesn't have to take either. He can play bishop c5 right now. Oh, he took the pawn on b2. Okay, I didn't see that one coming. I missed that. Can I sacrifice and exploit the dark squares? Actually, that looks like a lot of fun. I'm going to do that. Okay, I can take the pawn on c5, and if he takes the rook, then I'll play c6. If he moves the bishop back to b7, then I take this bishop with check. I don't see anything coming out of that. If I play rook b1, he plays queen takes a2. Okay. It looks like we're going to see some fireworks here, guys. I'm just going to castle and sacrifice the rook, and the reason why I'm doing it is that his dark squares are now Swiss cheese. That's the idea. All right. So if he takes the rook, then I'm going to take his bishop with my rook. I can also take it with a knight, but the knight's pretty good on c2 already. And if he takes on b4 with his pawn, then I can play knight d4 and into c6 maybe. So I'm sacrificing the exchange here, and the reason why I'm doing it is on general principle. He has dark squares that are weak around his king, and I'm just going to have long-term pressure. So if he does take the rook, then I'm going to have to keep this bishop. I don't want to get it exchanged off, because even if we go to an endgame, you know, where he's got a rook and I've got a bishop, I might be able to exploit those dark squares, and you know, he might not even take that rook. I'm wondering which piece I should recapture with if he does take it, though. I mean, obviously the knight on c2 is already developed, and I don't see a reason to bring it to a1, and the rook on a1 defends the pawn on a2, so that seems natural. So I think if he takes this rook, then I'm going to play... Now, if he plays bishop b5 here to attack this knight, I'm going to move my rook over here to e1, and that's what he played. All right, so I'm going to play rook e1 here. The reason being, it defends my knight and saves it. So I guess he can take the pawn on a2 if he wants to, but then I can take the pawn on c5. If I move my knight, this might be a pin on this bishop, right? Because if his queen is on a2, then I move my knight, say, anywhere, then this bishop is pinned. Not sure of the use of it, but I'm kind of surprised that he didn't take the rook. I thought that would be kind of interesting if he did. That's okay. This is fine, too. You know, we've got a game. If he takes my pawn, I take his. I'm attacking his bishop. If he takes this pawn, I take his. And then, you know, material's still equal. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 pawns for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 pawns. 3 minor pieces. 3 minor pieces. Black has the bishop pair, so that's definitely worth something. So he's probably not going to want to trade his knight for it. He's probably not going to want to take this knight out unless there's some reason behind, maybe something to do with the d4 or the c3 square. He might just go ahead and play knight or play bishop back to g7, get it back home, so to play knight f6 and castle. I mean, I don't see, you know, with the rooks on f1 and e1, this rook on e1 is eyeing down his king, and I'm ready to play pawn up to f4 and then e5 and bust open the position. So if he doesn't get his king safe or do something with his king, my rook on e1 is eyeing it down. You know, this pawn on e4 can go to e5. All right, so he took my pawn. Okay. Is he saying that there's tactics? If I play knight takes b4... All right, the only reason why I think he would take that pawn is if I cannot take it back, right? I can play queen takes b4, and if he plays bishop takes knight, then if I play queen takes b4 and he plays bishop takes knight, then I play queen takes rook check, and that looks pretty good for me, right? Okay, queen takes b4, I'm attacking this bishop, right? If he goes back to g7, then that's fine with me. Queen takes b4, queen c8, queen takes bishop, bishop takes knight, my move. Queen takes rook, queen takes queen, rook takes bishop, and what's the material like? I have 2 rooks, this bishop is still here, this knight is still here. So I've got 2 rooks, a bishop and a knight, and he has a queen, a rook, and a knight. So I have a rook and a bishop for his queen, but what are the pawns like? The pawns are equal, right? All right, 4 minutes. I can just play knight takes b4. Is there a tactic? Knight takes b4, bishop takes knight. Knight takes b4, bishop takes knight. Rook takes... Wait a minute. Knight takes b4, bishop takes knight. Rook takes bishop. Rook takes knight. Queen takes rook. Queen takes rook. And I'm down a piece. I guess I can give a check. Alright, I don't want to spend any more time. Knight takes b4, bishop takes... If this doesn't look good for me, I'm going to play queen takes b4. Alright, knight takes b4, bishop takes knight, my move. Wait a minute, knight takes b4. Yeah, bishop takes knight. Rook takes bishop. And the queen is overburdened. Rook takes knight. Queen takes rook. Queen takes rook. I'm down a piece. I can't take on b2. And he's attacking this bishop. Alright, I'm going to play queen takes. And we're going to go for this material imbalance that I was talking about. And how did we get there? We got there from bishop takes knight. Alright, bishop takes... Wait a minute. If bishop takes knight, I just play queen takes rook check. So how did we get to that material imbalance? I wish I could remember. There was a crazy material imbalance where how did we get there? Oh man, I don't even remember. See, this is what happens in blitz chess. All right. Oh, I remember the whole queen c8 idea. All right. So, okay, yeah, bishop back to g7, and now he wants to play queen c8. Okay. And what was I playing in this position? I was playing. I mean, I can just go back to d2, right? Then I guess this pawn falls. But then I can play rook a1 and get the pawn on a7. Alright, gotta make a move. I'm just gonna go defend the knight. And if he moves his bishop to get in to b2, then what? Then I've got to play bishop d4. Okay. Now I can also move this knight. And if he takes the rook, then play knight c6. Wait a minute. If I move this knight and he takes the rook, I just take his rook with check. That looks pretty cool, actually. If I just play this move, because it threatens to come into c6. Right? Right. Alright, let's do that. If he plays queen c8, it's my move. I can take his bishop. And if he takes my knight, I can play rook c1. Alright, this looks fun. Knight d4. What I'm doing is I'm attacking this bishop that can't really move so easily. Because this rook is pinning down stuff. And if he takes my knight, I take back, doing the same thing. If he takes a pawn on a2, it's my move. I can play knight takes bishop. But then it's pinned. Alright, well, like I said, if he takes the pawn on a2, I'm not worried about it. Because now I can just play rook a1. And he can't play bishop takes rook. And he's, you know, where's his queen going to go? So we might be trading queens. Alright, hold on. Queen takes a2. Rook a1. Queen c4. Queen takes a2. Rook a1. Queen c4. Rook takes a7. Queen takes queen. Knight takes queen. Bishop takes rook. My move. Knight b6. I'm attacking his rook. Attacking the pawn on e7. His knight can't easily move. I don't know. That's crazy. Is there something simpler? Queen takes a2. Is there something simpler? Knight takes bishop. Pawn up to a6. Then rook a1. But then this knight falls. Alright. Queen takes a2. Knight takes bishop. Queen takes knight. Alright, he played rook here. Why did he play that move? I don't know why he played that move. I'm not sure why he played that. I can just play pawn up to a3. Oh, okay, that's why, because he's looking at... He wants to play bishop takes rook. Alright. Right? I can try rook b1. And then answer queen takes a2 with rook b2. Rook b1, bishop takes rook. Queen takes rook. Queen takes queen. Rook takes rook. We've traded rooks. Alright. Anything else? Can I play knight c6? Nope. Can I play a4? Nope. Should I just move the rook to f2? Queen takes a2? Nope. Alright. It's getting crazy. Rook b1. I have a minute 8 left. He's got 1 minute. So he's going for this. Cool. So we've got this crazy line now. So he might save his bishop. I'm attacking the pawn on a7. Did I win a pawn here? I might have won a pawn, and he's not developed yet. He's attacking my pawn. Okay. But then I can give a check here. Is that some sort of checkmate if I control this square? Check, king there, check, perpetuals. All right, I'm just going to take this pawn off, and I'm defending this pawn, and I'm going to run this guy forward. That's all I'm doing. Okay, I can give a check here and win his rook. No, I can't. He just takes it. All right, so let's push onwards and upwards with this pawn and see if that works out for me. So we are now both in time pressure here. We're both on the increment, officially on the increment. I can play knight c6 and attack the pawn on e7. I probably should. Well, if he castles, then I can take the pawn on e7. It's not so easy for him to castle. He might try knight d7 with the idea of stopping that, but then if he castles, I take his knight. This position is not so easy for black, and it's because he didn't castle. So what's he going to do here? What's black going to do? Oh, he castled. He gave up the pawn. I guess he gets his pawn on a8 if I take it, but I'm definitely taking this pawn. Because that's a really strong pawn for me to take. Alright, now it's my move. Can I defend this pawn? 40 seconds. I can play knight b5. And the idea is if bishop takes knight, then pawn takes, and I'm also attacking this guy. Right? I can play rook here. That attacks his bishop. Actually, let's do that. I'm going to play rook here. Oh, then he just takes the pawn on a4. Okay, never mind. I'm going to play knight b5. I just want to take the pawn on d6. If bishop f8, defending it, then it's my move. I can play rook a7. And the idea is I'm just holding on to the pawn. Okay, so I can play knight d4 here. Oh, 8 seconds. Oh my. All right, time to start pre-moving stuff, and think about playing f4. We're both on the increment here, so this is as blitzy can get. f4. I'm just attacking his rook. I'm threatening a check. That's all I'm doing. Okay, check. So we're trading pieces. He took. I'm gonna take. I'm gonna put my bishop on somewhere. So maybe I can push this pawn forward. Okay, he's threatening to win a pawn, but I don't see how that does it. Because in the end, this knight is hanging. Get the king in the game. I'm gonna try to infiltrate. Okay, that was a good move. Let's attack this pawn. Oh, did he just win a pawn? Darn it. Okay, 9 seconds. Alright, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to infiltrate with my king, because his king is a little cut off. Rook d1. Okay, 4 seconds. Oh boy. He cannot play rook g8 because of my bishop. There, he's trying to win pawns. Okay. Fine. Now what? Ah! I ran out of time. I lost. Good game. Good game, all rats. That could have gone either way. All right, I'm going to call you on Skype. And first I'm going to follow you. Oh, man, I ran out of time. Oh, that was a good game. Okay, I'm going to follow all rats. This is him right here. And now I'm going to call him on Skype. All right. Video call. Let's call him on Skype. Oh, gosh. What a game. That was a great game.
All right.
Good game.
Crazy game. Good. The video is sounding good. All right, let's see. Time in is 34 minutes. So if we go an hour, we've got 25 minutes to discuss.
Cool.
I wasn't seeing anything in this game, but it's certainly, like, there's a lot of stuff to this. There
Yeah.
was a lot of crazy ideas. And I played it on the whim. Let's go back to the beginning. Then somebody tried to Skype call me in the middle of a game, and a friend, I just declined. Sorry, I'll have to tell you later. Oh, right. Okay. So, here I was thinking, what to play against you? I'll just mix things up. I was thinking about the modern defense. I want you to see a variety of openings. I want to see a variety of styles. I'll help me understand your style. We don't want to keep playing the same opening every time, do we? No.
Right.
Because then you'll get good in one opening and one type of position, and then you won't get good at all the other cards.
Hey, 1 second. You're kind of breaking up a little bit. I don't know if that has to do with internet or Skype.
It probably has to do with the internet. My connection seems to be fine. Even if I lose connection, I can keep talking and record. I'm hearing you pretty good. You got a little bit of a breakup.
Okay.
At least when it's all said and done, you'll hear my version.
Yeah,
Okay,
I can understand what you're saying, but it's just a little sketchy.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Technology got to get better.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do our best and get through this. I know. Are you an examiner still?
No, I'm not.
Did you close the window?
Wait a minute. Maybe I am. Let me check.
If you stay in the game, you're an examiner.
Oh, no, yeah, I closed it out and followed you.
Okay. Well, then let me make you an examiner.
Okay. So here I'm out of book.
Didn't put your name down. Okay. You are now an examiner 237. So I was happy to go into a modern, and it's funny, I was mentioning a player I know, he was a life master, just passed away a few years ago, that played this line. And darn if I saw a lot of his games, but darn if I can remember everything he did with it. All I remember is that he told me the key was leave the Black Knight on G8 as long as you can.
Interesting. I was surprised. Yeah. I thought you were going to play E6 and Knight E7 stuff.
Well, I was just basically following the strategy of somebody. I was just trying to come up with active play as the game progressed, rather than just play just quiet developing moves, which I always stress, Mela.
Right.
I wanted to, I'm saying I should really mix up the thing because it's wrong for black to try to mix things up. But this bishop e3 maneuver just gives that little opportunity to do these tricks on the long diagonal file.
Right.
And I just had to try it just to see what would happen.
That was really good. I like how you played this with b5 and, c5 and grabbing space. I think that was a really good plan.
Right. And you'll see it needs to be how it's misanalyzing. I was finding some clever defenses and counterattacks down this and down overlooking my maneuvers like crazy. At least I was discovering it. You'll see when we get there. But I know there are a lot of openings that this one's into it, and white's really got to be careful because of the pressure on P2. You seem to find resources. So, my idea is just like Queen D3 here.
Yeah, I thought about it, but I didn't want to trade queens.
Okay.
Hey, somehow your audio has fainted a little bit.
Okay. So, I hear you just fine. Actually, maybe not hear me, but I can tell by the way the feedback's going into my headphones. I can this recording will be fine, and when you see the recording, it'll make more sense.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so I was analyzing Queen C2. Queen C1 is playable, so.
I like Queen C1 because in a lot of lines your bishop on C8 is hanging after you play C takes D4.
Right. Yeah, I mentioned that. I said, I got to be careful I don't drop the bishop on C8 when the C file opens up. I saw that right away.
So I thought I had to play D5 here.
D5?
Yeah, I thought that's what I had to play here.
Instead of bishop 3?
No.
Now I've got it's not. Okay. It's not moving the pieces. Okay. Here you had to play D5?
Oh, no. Sorry. No. Here, bishop D3. Now D5.
I didn't mind that as much. Is that what you did? I think it was.
Yeah, I think it was forced, right?
Well, let's see. I'm trying to remember what I was saying at this point on the video. I was saying I didn't mind d5 because I go knight e5, but
Right. Like, let's say I just played a nothing move. Let's say I just played h3, and then you take, and I take, and then you take here. Your bishop is defended by the rook,
right.
and so I take, and, you know, I mean, I'm just losing here, right?
Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. There was one trick in here there was one trick I remember looking at. It's a point where you try to play d takes c, and then get b4 ring.
Oh, I looked at that too. Yeah, I thought about stuff like that in the game.
But I have some resources on that, so I don't
Right.
remember where they are off the top of my head. I was mentioning them in my version.
I wasn't thinking b4 for the same reason you're thinking of it. You're thinking of it because the pawn on c5 is pinned to the queen, and that makes a lot of sense. I was thinking of it as a later plan to put the rook on b1 and push b4.
Right. Well, here, like I say, but I have some resources. Okay, the resources are, if they hold up, is that I'm taking on d3 with check. Okay, see, here's my resource.
Right.
And you've got to deal with that bishop before you can do anything on c5. And then I guess I have knight d7. I thought I had something else too. But anyway.
Oh, you might have something here. Let's see. What if you just ignore the pawn?
No, one point I thought I might be losing the pawn.
Right.
It's almost ancient history now.
Okay, this move, queen d6. You want to get in here. Does that do anything? Then.
Well, you can give up the bishop here and be a pawn ahead. Let's see how this yields. Now.
Your threat is if there's pressure here. Maybe the rook wants to come to c8.
Well, I'm on e4.
And you're on e4.
I'm on e4 at this point. You could try queen e3. I can go queen c2, I suppose. I'm ready to play queen b2.
Right.
It's definitely complicated. I knew it's one of those things that a new player will just say, "Oh, that wins a pawn," and they will play it, and then all of a sudden, disaster happens.
Right.
And you know, usually, like I say in my first video on my lesson series, I say, "Don't just go chasing pawns in the opening. Develop."
Right.
Have a look. If you're going to play something risky, have a look. Just make sure. But this is murky and unclear.
Yeah, it is.
You know, theoretically, you can sit down, and that's what this is all about. Now you take this and you sit down with it. You spend 2 hours and decide, or if you don't even have to spend 2 hours, you spend 20 minutes on this move and find out if it's good or bad. Generally speaking, it's not good for white to go pawn hunting like this. But in some cases, if you can just win a clear pawn and hold it, then you've got a winning game right now.
Right.
And because your alternatively, black has equalized this position. Okay.
Yeah.
So even though there's a possibility to win that pawn, and especially in a 15-minute game, you can't stop and calculate everything out.
Yeah,
so,
that's a correspondence decision, really.
Yeah, an online game or turn-based correspondence,
right.
Postal checks, whatever. Then you can go into it. And I knew that there was some complications. At one point, I thought I might lose the pawn, but I saw I had some active play, so I wasn't worried about it. And because I know I make up. Oh, see here, I go there anyway. I know I was talking about the lines we would take. That my knight ends up going to e5, and then here I get to go there anyway. And here, once again,
I was happy. Position. I was happy to trade that.
Well, yeah, yes and no. Once again, we reach this, like the last game where I had black, where you're missing that white square action. And
right.
Okay, let me just back into this for a second. What are my alternatives? I don't have to play that. I can wait for you to provoke it and play f4. Well, I could play knight f6, but my whole objective is to keep the knight on g8 for Henkin.
But
That's what Henkin.
then you're threatening to play. I guess I'd play f3 if you played knight f6.
Right. But the guy that played this, I'm telling you, incredibly experienced player. He wasn't the best. He was life master, meaning he completed over 300 games with a before and after 2200 rating. He played in every U.S. Open. He played in every American Open. He would go to the World Open. He would play just about everywhere. He knew all the grandmasters. He knew Fischer. He knew everybody. He had a great story. Just the story, and I think the listeners will like it. He was giving Fischer a ride home one time from a tournament, and Henkin was talking about his game and said, "I lost." I was told grumbling about it. He was grumbling about it, and Fischer said, "Can I see the score sheet?" And Henkin handed it to him, and Fischer looked at it and handed it back 2 seconds later, and Henkin's heart sunk, and he said, he's not even interested in that. And then Fischer, just to tell you how gifted he was, he immediately started giving Henkin suggestions. He looked at the entire score sheet in 2 seconds, memorized what the moves were, and played the game over in his head, and started giving Henkin improvements on how to make his game better.
Wow.
And that's a true story. So,
that's crazy.
Exactly. This guy understood positional chess. I got to play him once, and he was having a bad tournament. We drew. I was having a bad tournament. That was the tournament at the end, lesson 8, impulsive moves, one where I butchered my last game. Well, I drew a bad position against him. He was messed him up. I got him into a Smith-Moore Gambit decline or something. I don't remember. I have to pick that game up one day. It's a joke. But no. But like I said, he told me the key is keep the knight on g8 as long as you can. And I don't know anymore. So I just said, okay, I'll keep the knight on g8 and figure out what I can do. Right. I'll look for everything else. So I wasn't ever about to move that knight. It was going to stay there. Because I want to, if I can do what Henkin did and do it well, you're going to learn from it.
Right.
Okay. So the alternative aside from knight g4 is to play bishop d7. But this gives me some play. Even though you got rid of that knight, I think black started to get a little bit better of you, and got a little too complicated for me.
The main reason why I liked the exchange was because all my pawns are on light-colored squares, and that bishop is almost like it's in the way. What are your thoughts on the positional aspects of that?
Well, it's interesting. I did talk about it briefly. I said if we trade dark square bishops, I have a good bishop in the ending.
Right.
But at the same time, your bishop is good. You don't want to trade it. You want to keep it on working with your pawns.
Okay.
So there's some minuses. I talked about it in one video I made recently. Since you're watching while you'll catch it, I do talk about how even if you're left with the worst bishop, you want to keep yours on. I mean, you don't want to trade it. Maybe keep it on.
The bad bishop protects good pawns.
Right, but this gave me some. You see, Queen A6. Did you see that coming?
No. Once you played it, it made sense to me. I didn't see it coming. You played it, and it was a shock to me. But I like it because it's got a lot of pressure.
Right. These are the kind of moves that separate the 1800 player from the 2200 player.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to brag.
I should have seen it because B5 is something you want to play.
Right. Well, it's not so much B5. It's also how it restricts your development.
Right. Exactly.
You can't castle until you can't castle until you clear that knight out of the way. But where's the knight going to go? If it goes to H3, you still can't castle. If it goes to E2, you still can't castle because it's hanging.
Right.
To castle. And at the same time, what it does is it prepares B5 and B4. Now,
yeah.
Did I plan this ahead of time? No, because I sometimes I go one move at a time. A lot of times my opponents play moves I don't even expect, but I have a solid enough game and enough positional understanding that I can figure things out.
Right.
But the burden is on you as white. Okay, let me explain that a little more clearly. Okay. When I'm playing the game and I have Canada moves, okay. When I play knight G4, what I'm saying to myself is said on the video. I do talk about you taking it. I don't know if I mentioned how you're going to miss a white square defender. But what I'm saying is I'm putting the pressure on that bishop because this gives me some tactical shots. Where if you're going to keep it, you're going to put on F4, G5, or B2. And I said maybe I have some little tactical shots. And
right.
Other things I mentioned. I was discussing that on the video, and I said, of course, you can take it. But you see, when I know it's a good enough move that if anything, if you take it, that I don't see you getting any long-term positional advantages by taking it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I'm not worried if you take it, and I don't need to analyze that out. Yeah, now a correspondence game where I've got 2-3 hours to sit down and work it out, I'll have all this known ahead of time. This is a different game, correspondence chess. You suddenly play a class or two of them straight. Okay? But I didn't even realize the possibilities. I just started finding. But you see, taking it does weaken your white squares. So
yeah.
what I'm saying is, for you, when you make this move and you had your reasons for it, you also have to anticipate moves like Queen A6. Now, hey, I'm weakening my white squares. What can he do? So you might stop, take a breath, and maybe you'll play a move like Knight F3 instead, and let you waste time taking your bishop.
That's a really good point. That's amazing. Yeah. You know, when I took that knight, I never thought to myself, I'm weakening my light squares.
Right. So, like I said, when you're creating a variation, that's where you have to consider things. So I didn't even see this until it came up, but I have enough chess knowledge that now that taking it off, that I can see what I want to do. And naturally, Bishop B7 is the only move. And immediately I say, oh, look what that bishop does on B5.
Yeah, I had to stop that.
So I had, pretty much as soon as I got the bishop on B7, I knew what I was going to be doing here.
Right.
And I was discussing all kinds of ways for you to try to get untracked here. With maneuvering with B3, Rook B1, and then finally C4.
Right.
In some situations. But I could say Queen A6, that's a move you got to see coming. Because that's the stuff that's going to separate you from when you break expert and you're trying to get into 2200. These are things that can cost you games.
Right.
I do think at some point you were probably losing this, and I just didn't follow through correctly. I made one gross oversight. You'll see it in a bit. Let's move on. Okay, so now everything I'm wanting to do is just naturally happening. And, all this is thematic stuff. And once again, there I am, I'm keeping the knight on G8.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And I even discussed it. I said, where does my knight go? Goes to F6, where next? I don't need to do it.
That's exactly what I said. On F6, it doesn't have scope. So I was thinking you'd play E6 and knight E7.
Right, so here I'm saying this is what my Hankin is right. Keeping that on G8. And it means you don't castle. It means the rook stays over there. You got to work with the rest of your pieces. Well, I think I found the best possible plan I could with the rest of my pieces. So this is what you want as black. You want activity and counterplay. So anyway, let's move on to what nothing before. And here I was having all kinds of hallucinations. I was analyzing takes. Here's what I'll show you what it takes on B4 and bishop takes. I was looking at rook B1, and I was saying, okay, queen takes A2. And then I was analyzing knight A1. Now you're pinning my bishop.
I saw that. I saw that stuff too.
I'm totally forgetting your rook on B1 is hanging. So there's the one mover I said I missed. But naturally, this was all planned. Then you castle. Now I think I could probably just take on A1, and I'm doing okay. I got clever here, and I didn't anticipate you would flee. But you'll have to test this on your own.
Well, that's exactly why I played it, because I said to myself, you know what, if he takes the rook, then he's got dark square weaknesses in his camp, and I'm going to keep my dark squared bishop, and I'm going to pressure him and try to exploit those dark squares and just see what happens, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you definitely get some counterplay, but I think that black has some, well, because he has some wood. There's also some lines of thinking where you could have tried for takes and push. I don't think.
Oh, I looked at that. Yeah, I looked at that. I looked at right now it's black's move. What I looked at was bishop takes rook, pawn takes c5, bishop g7, and then c6.
So here.
Yeah, and then I was looking at takes.
Okay, well, don't I save my piece here and you're down a whole rook?
Oh no, this isn't what I was looking at. I was looking at it instead of castle. I was looking at take now. And then take, and now play c6.
Yeah.
And that's what I was looking at.
I did consider something like this, but I think there's a fly in the ointment. I'm getting some pressure down here.
Yeah, I'm not sure about all this. Yeah. Oh, ouch. Wait a minute. Ouch. King up.
A1 is fine.
I lose the rook.
I know. I was looking at it. I didn't satisfy myself for the other. Let's just get back to the game.
Yeah, I didn't go quite far enough with the calculation because of the time clock. I just said maybe it's not, maybe it's shaky, and I didn't go for it.
I think at this point, in 15 moves, I firmly think that black has a winning position. And the thing that caused it was you taking on g4. Because I worked up the white square pressure.
I think you're right. You're definitely right about that. Yeah.
So even though theoretically I butchered it. Theoretically, you had a lost game, and sometimes that's unacceptable. Like there's an argument I've given to people. Like suppose you're playing the world champion, and you could follow this in your mind. E4, okay, you're black. E4, D5, and you take on D5, and he takes with the queen. Now the natural move is to play knight C3, right?
Right.
Now suppose you touch your king.
Huh.
Okay? Suppose you touch your king. You have to play king e2, right?
Yeah.
Well, that allowed mate and what? Queen e4 mate.
Ouch.
So you have just defeated the world champion, but did you really beat him?
Right.
You know, so it's true you have to have an error, a blunder to win a game. But it's better that you don't have to win a lost game. It's good when you can win a lost game. But it's better when you can just play a complete game and not have to rely on your opponent having to give you a gift. Because if you can just maintain an initiative straight through, then it makes your skill a little better. That's just a point I want to make.
That's a great point.
Theoretically, you've given yourself a lost game in 15 moves, and I didn't win it. Now, maybe it's not lost. You're going to sit down and analyze this and figure it out.
Well, hey, sorry to interrupt you, but looks like our file is it's going to end after 60 minutes, right?
1 minute.
Okay. Well, I want to make a comment. You said that I won, but I didn't. You won this game, so it's 2-2. We've got another tie-break game next game.
Right. All I'm saying is, yes, I won, but at the same time, I had to win a lost game. Your flag fell, and right when I was getting some counterplay, in a time scramble, anything could have happened.
Yeah, that's what I said at the end.
Okay. Interesting chess. Your play is good.
Thank you.
Made some comments. Okay, let's end the video and keep talking.
Okay.
Let's get things out of the way here.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay. All right. Thanks for your time, everyone, for looking in. GuruBattle will continue in the near future. All right. Take care. All right. I stopped my video.